Dependence is an illusion until it's tested, and most people never test it. They assume they need others. They believe shared responsibilities, emotional connections, and social validation are enough to prove their necessity for human interaction. But Nietzsche would have laughed at that. He knew better. In his world and in yours, true strength is not found in connection. It's found in complete self-sufficiency. And the only way to know if you're truly free is to test your need for others without warning, quietly, strategically, brutally if necessary. Because the truth is, most of the dependencies you think you have are not real needs. They're comfortable addictions. Your need for approval, your need for companionship, your need for validation. Once you realize these are weaknesses disguised as connections, you begin to see what Nietzsche and Marcus Aurelius both understood. The man who needs nothing from anyone becomes ungovernable, and therefore dangerous. Marcus Aurelius believed that true power reveals itself not when you're surrounded by allies, but when you can stand completely alone. That's why both philosophers devised not tests for others, but tests for yourself. Small, calculated withdrawals from dependency. Not to hurt yourself, but to uncover your true strength. You don't ask yourself, am I independent? You put yourself in positions where independence costs you something. That's when the mask of social necessity slips. Stop seeking approval. Stop explaining your decisions. Stop justifying your choices to anyone. Friends, family, colleagues, strangers online. Just for a while. Watch how you respond internally. If you grow anxious, defensive, or begin second-guessing every move you make, you were never truly confident. You were validation-dependent. And Nietzsche knew the validation-dependent are slaves to the opinions of those who matter least. True self-reliance does not waver when the applause stops. It does not require external confirmation to feel its worth. In fact, when you withdraw from the need for approval, real strength emerges. It checks your decisions against your own standards. It holds position based on your own judgment. But the weak, they crumble, or worse, they find new audiences to perform for, new voices to please in the moment. Let them judge. You didn't lose their approval. You revealed that you never needed it. Introduce radical aloneness. Spend days, even weeks, without seeking social interaction. No texting for entertainment, no calls for emotional support, no social media for connection. Something that signals complete withdrawal from the social fabric. Now watch your reaction. Do you panic? Do you suddenly become restless, bored, desperate for human contact? Marcus Aurelius would say, "The dependent fear solitude because it threatens their illusion of necessity." What this test does is threaten the comfort you've built around social connection. If extended isolation creates anxiety or depression, your sense of self was never truly yours. It was borrowed from others' presence. A truly self-sufficient person doesn't just tolerate solitude, they prefer it. They don't oppose social interaction directly, but underneath what they realize is, I am complete without you. This is the moment where you must become surgical. Observe, don't react. Let the silence teach you. The more uncomfortable you become, the more you reveal whether you're living your life or performing it for an audience. Go completely silent on your support systems. Not as punishment, not to prove a point, but to create space and see what breaks down and what stands firm. Nietzsche would say, "The absence of assistance reveals the presence of true capability." Stop asking for help. Stop leaning on others' expertise. Stop using other people as emotional crutches or decision-making consultants. Handle your problems alone. This test hurts because it breaks your illusion of interconnectedness. But illusions are dangerous. Nietzsche knew that the greatest threat to any individual was not external opposition. It was internal dependency, waiting to collapse them. So you must treat your life like a fortress, and not every comfort deserves a place in that fortress just because it felt good to lean on. Put yourself in positions where others offer assistance, emotional support, financial help, social connections. Don't make it dramatic. Just let them see moments where you're handling everything yourself, where their usual input isn't welcomed. Then observe yourself. This is where self-reliance either sharpens or shatters. Some people are only independent when it's convenient. They talk about self-sufficiency, but panic the moment they have to actually live it. The moment real isolation appears, they step back, not out of wisdom, but because true independence makes them uncomfortable. Why? Because they were never supporting themselves. They were using others as scaffolding. If that scaffolding disappears, they collapse. Marcus Aurelius would say, "The one who stands when all support is removed is the only one worthy of calling himself free." Give people opportunities to misinterpret your independence as coldness, your self-reliance as arrogance, your solitude as antisocial behavior. Subtle, strategic, not extreme, but real. Something that tempts them to judge you, to label you, to make you the problem because you don't need them. Watch closely. Do you rush to explain yourself? Do you modify your behavior to seem more palatable? Do you justify your independence after criticism? Or do you simply continue being self-sufficient regardless of their comfort level? This test doesn't just reveal your independence, it reveals your values. And values, unlike explanations, don't bend to social pressure. The reality is, most people will fail one of these tests because most people aren't built for true self-reliance. They're built for interdependence, for social validation, for the comfort of shared responsibility. But Nietzsche didn't care about comfort. He cared about power. And the outcome of these tests is clarity. You'll lose people's approval, but what you gain is something far more valuable: complete autonomy. You don't need anyone's permission to exist. You don't need anyone's validation to be right. You need zero external support to be complete. The kind who stands when there's no one cheering, who decides when there's no one advising, who thrives when there's no one caring. But you'll never know if that's you until you test it. Most people go their entire lives surrounded by dependencies, people they call for advice, lean on for support, rely on for emotional regulation. They call this connection, they call this community. But Nietzsche would call it what it truly is: a soft prison of mutual need masking a battlefield of quiet desperation. And unless you're willing to step back and test these dependencies, you'll spend your life building on quicksand, trusting in connections that were never necessary, and exposing your plans to people whose opinions you never needed in the first place. When you test your self-reliance, you're not being antisocial, you're being responsible. You're not creating isolation, you're revealing your true capacity. That distinction is everything, because people will try to guilt you. They'll say you've changed, say you're cold now, say you don't need anyone anymore. And they're right. You don't. Not until someone proves they add genuine value to your completely self-sufficient existence. Not until they've earned access to a fortress that was already complete without them. You don't hand out dependency like it's normal. You make others prove they're worth risking your independence for. Not with words, but with extraordinary value. There's something unsettling that happens when you begin applying these tests of independence. The systems you thought were supporting you start to reveal themselves as systems that were controlling you. Social expectations shift. People start questioning your intentions. Why? Because when someone benefits from your dependency, your self-reliance becomes a threat. They feel it. The shift in you. the precision, the withdrawal from their influence. And if they were profiting from your need for them, they won't celebrate your freedom. They'll retaliate, not with violence, but with social pressure, emotional manipulation, labels like selfish or antisocial. That's how you know the test worked. See, a dependent person is not always weak. Sometimes they're just comfortable. They crumble under the pressure of true independence. They change direction when social winds shift against solitude. They need you to be a version of yourself that requires them, and the moment you don't, they begin to treat your strength as a problem. Nietzsche would say, "The weak will always mistake independence for cruelty." This is where most people fail. They pass the test, they achieve self-reliance, and still they apologize for it. Out of guilt, out of social pressure, out of that old deadly question, "But what if I'm meant to need people?" You're not. When your energy increases in solitude, when your decisions improve without input, when your life runs smoother without external dependencies, you already have your answer. You're just delaying the liberation. Nietzsche wasn't interested in fitting in. He was interested in transcending. And transcendence requires complete self-ownership. You cannot afford to need where someone else stands. Not if you're building something significant, not if you're climbing toward greatness, not if your words carry influence and your presence carries power. You must know that you are complete alone. Not imagine it, not hope for it, not assume it. Know it. And here's the paradox. Once you begin living this way, independently, observantly, self-sufficiently, the right people reveal themselves too. It's not all isolation. True self-reliance attracts those who are also complete on their own. When you withdraw your need and someone approaches not to fill a void, but to share strength, that's rare. That's not dependency. That's alliance between equals. And it doesn't come often. When it does, you protect it like gold, because you'll start to realize one truly independent ally is worth more than 100 people who need you to need them. The beauty of complete self-reliance is that it doesn't require confrontation, no arguments, no dramatic exits, just patterns. Independence, withdrawal from validation, comfortable solitude, and then observation. Let others reveal their dependency on your dependency. Let their discomfort with your self-sufficiency speak louder than their words of concern ever could. Most people are terrified of this. They don't want to know if they can truly stand alone. They'd rather live in the illusion of necessary connection than discover they're complete without anyone's input. But that fear is what keeps them weak, supported but not strong, connected but not free, liked but never truly respected. And Marcus Aurelius would remind you, respect for your independence always outweighs affection for your dependency in the game of life. So when you begin cutting, isolating, self-relying, you're not becoming cold, you're becoming complete. Precision is not antisocial behavior, it is self-mastery. And those who can't understand that were never built to be sovereign. They were built to be dependent, to need, to require external validation for their sense of worth. That's not who you are. You are here to be complete, to be self-governing, to see your own path before others even understand the destination. And you do that by testing every dependency before it weakens you, not just the obvious ones. The subtle ones, the ones that feel comfortable, the ones that seem harmless, but slowly erode your ability to stand completely alone. Test them, observe them, and when they prove unnecessary, don't explain, don't apologize, just let them go. No ceremony, no emotional processing, just space. That space, that independence, that's your sovereignty. Wear it. There's a strange power that settles in when you realize you need absolutely no one. Not immediately. At first it feels isolating, like something is missing. But that absence isn't loneliness, it's freedom. It's space being created for what you choose to include, not what you need to survive. And Nietzsche would say, power doesn't grow in dependent relationships. It grows in sovereign ones. Every false dependency removed is not a subtraction from your life. It's a purification. You're not getting rid of support. You're removing the illusion that you ever needed it. Because when your independence is real, other people's presence isn't necessary. It's optional. And that transforms everything. Every time they speak, they're adding to your already complete existence, not filling a void. Every time they help, they're contributing to your strength, not compensating for your weakness. Every time they're present, they're choosing to be part of something that would continue perfectly well without them. That's why you test, not because you want to be alone, not because you want to be difficult, but because you have something to protect. Your complete self-sufficiency. And those who are not comfortable with your independence are quietly threatened by your freedom. Maybe not intentionally, but their need for your need will eventually collide with your self-reliance. And when it does, they'll either adapt to your sovereignty or reveal their dependency on your dependency. So you make independence testing part of your regular process. You normalize it, not just once, but continuously. Self-reliance isn't something you verify once and then forget. It's something you keep strengthening, like security around your autonomy. Marcus Aurelius's greatest insight wasn't about ruling others. It was about the quiet revolution of ruling yourself so completely that no external force could destabilize your foundation. And history proved him right. The most dangerous individuals to any system are those who have discovered they need nothing from that system to thrive. But you won't just be observing dependency now, you'll be orchestrating independence. When you speak of your self-sufficiency, you're watching who gets uncomfortable. When you pull back from social expectations, you're noting who tries to pull you back in and who respects your boundaries. When you expose your ability to thrive alone, you're testing their comfort with your freedom. And all the while, you remain calm, sovereign, unshakable. That composure is your advantage. The moment you defend your independence, you give others room to argue against it. But when you simply live it, you demonstrate truth that needs no explanation. So become the silence that needs nothing. Become the presence that is complete without input, and never justify your self-reliance. Once others know you're testing your independence, the result is contaminated. Now here's where most people misunderstand. They think independence means isolation, but it's deeper than that. It's about how you exist when no one is watching, how you make decisions when no one is advising, how you handle crisis when no one is helping. Independence is proven most when you are completely unsupported, in validation, in assistance, in emotional regulation. So if you're ever unsure about your self-reliance, step into complete autonomy. Handle everything yourself. Watch how you respond internally, and then see if you're still standing strong when there's no external reinforcement to lean on. This mindset is rare because most people are desperate to belong, to be needed, to be part of something bigger. But Nietzsche didn't write for the desperate, he wrote for the sovereign. And sovereignty isn't found in connection, it's found in complete self-ownership. The more independent you become, the more dangerous you are to systems that profit from your dependency. Because now your life isn't just supported, it's unshakable. It's self-reliant by design, not by accident. You start to notice the difference instantly. Real independence moves differently. It doesn't need validation, doesn't need to be constantly reinforced by others' approval. It operates from internal strength. It doesn't crumble when social support disappears. It strengthens. And when you face criticism for your self-reliance, it doesn't get defensive or apologetic. It remains unmoved. That kind of independence is rare, but it's worth everything. Because when you find even one person who respects your complete self-sufficiency, someone who doesn't try to make you need them, someone who doesn't interpret your independence as a problem to solve, you realize something deeply powerful. You don't need to be needed to be valuable. You just need to be complete. And here's the final beauty of the independence test. Once you start running it on your dependencies, you begin running it on your own patterns. You start asking, am I trying to make others need me? Do I create dependencies in others? Or do I encourage their independence? That question cuts deep, because true power isn't just about achieving self-reliance. It's about not requiring others' dependence to feel strong. That's how you build a life that lasts. The test of independence doesn't end with freeing yourself from others. It becomes a mirror. When you've seen dependency up close, when you've felt the weakness of needing external validation, when you've watched self-worth collapse under the weight of social approval, you begin to sharpen your own sovereignty, not just toward others, but toward yourself. Nietzsche believed that the highest individual must be both independent and inspiring. But more than anything, he must be complete within himself. And that kind of completeness comes from consistency, from discipline, from never flinching in the face of social pressure to be dependent, even pressure from yourself. Because if you demand independence, you must also offer it, not to everyone, but completely, not partially, but absolutely. You must be comfortable with others' self-reliance. You must respect their sovereignty, like a weapon forged in their own defense. You must stand with your own completeness, not just when it's easy, but especially when society demands your dependency. That is the final transformation Nietzsche hinted at, from social animal to sovereign individual. But let's be clear, offering independence does not mean tolerating others' attempts to make you dependent. It does not mean accepting their discomfort with your self-reliance. It means that when you do encounter another truly independent individual, the one who passes every test of self-sufficiency, the spotlight withdrawal, the validation independence, the solitude comfort, the rejection of help, the embrace of being misunderstood, that person becomes not part of your support system, but part of your sovereignty alliance. And that alliance is sacred. Once you have that, everything changes. Your focus tightens, your execution sharpens. You stop explaining your independence, you stop defending your self-reliance, because now you have proof that sovereignty attracts sovereignty. You have someone who doesn't need you to need them while pretending to support your independence. Someone who doesn't see your self-sufficiency as a threat to their importance. Someone who doesn't try to create dependency while claiming to offer help. Most people will never experience this because most people are terrified to test their own need for others. They're afraid of discovering they're completely capable alone. They're afraid of what they'll lose if they stop needing validation, connection, emotional support from external sources. But that fear is what keeps them controlled, needed but not free, connected but not sovereign, supported but never truly independent. And Marcus Aurelius would remind you, independence always outweighs interdependence in the game of personal power. So when you begin cutting dependencies, isolating from social validation, self-relying completely, you're not becoming antisocial. You're becoming ungovernable. And those who can't handle that were never meant to witness your sovereignty. They were meant to benefit from your dependency. There's a strange peace that settles in when you realize the wrong dependencies have left your life. Not immediately. At first it feels unsupported, like something crucial is missing. But that absence isn't weakness. It's strength. It's space being created for what enhances your already complete existence, not what fills necessary gaps. And those people, those rare, silent, sovereign individuals who are also complete without external validation, they are your real power. They don't need your dependency. They don't need your need for them. They just need mutual respect for independence. And once you give it, they use it to reinforce your sovereignty, not to create comfortable dependency. That's what makes them dangerous to systems of control. And that's what makes them invaluable to you. So you move differently now. You need less. You observe more. Every social interaction becomes optional. Every validation becomes unnecessary. Every external support becomes a choice rather than a requirement. And every attempt to make you dependent becomes a boundary you enforce once, clearly, without negotiation. There's no ceremony, no emotional explanation, just sovereignty. Because the ones who can't handle your independence were never meant to be part of your autonomous life, and the ones who respect it never try to compromise it. The more precise you become in your self-reliance, the quieter your world gets. Not empty, sovereign, not lonely, complete. You stop mistaking social connection for necessity. You stop confusing support with dependency. You begin to crave the stillness of complete self-ownership, because in that stillness there is no performance, no need to justify your choices to anyone, no need to translate your independence into socially acceptable language. The people who remain already understand your sovereignty, not your explanations, but your completeness. And in that understanding, there is no need for dependency, no requirement for external validation, just mutual respect for the rarest thing in a world built on interdependence. The individual who needs absolutely nothing from anyone to be complete. That individual is society's greatest threat because they cannot be controlled through dependency, manipulated through need, or governed through the promise of connection. They are already whole, already complete, already free. And once you realize that's who you are, everything else becomes optional.